Member for Kelowna Mission.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Well, to the Premier and the Minister of Health, it might just be a blip. But to the people who are suffering, the families who wait beside them, and the frontline workers who are frustrated, it's so much more than that. This is a crisis of care. Last week at the Langley Event Centre, a 91-year-old woman arrived by cab for her vaccination. She fell and broke her hip. Staff offered comfort, but they couldn't offer the care she needed. An ambulance was called, and it took nearly 2 hours for it to arrive. The Premier and his minister may think it's just a blip, but it's not. It's unacceptable and far too common occurrence right now. Will the Premier acknowledge the failure of ambulances arriving on time is a real crisis and take steps to fix it immediately?
Minister of Health.
Honourable Speaker, the government has been taking steps to address this problem since 2017. The increase in resources to the BC Emergency Health Services, the rate of increase 2.5 times what had been put in place by the previous government in the previous 4-year period, Honourable Speaker, is an indication of that commitment. The 283 positions that have been added since then, the collective agreement negotiated with QP Local 873, which has increased the number of permanent positions and continue to do so. It is an enormous challenge at the time of 2 public health emergencies to be an ambulance paramedic. And there are significant challenges in our system right now, including, as the member I think is referring to, the most significant day in ambulance calls, really, that the province had seen other than a New Year's Day. And so we have to continue to support our ambulance paramedics, continue to support them as they address the extraordinary challenges ahead of them, and continue to deliver a high level of service. That will need to be challenging, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. Adding ambulance paramedics, adding cars, adding resources to rural communities, and continuing to do so, consistent with a collective agreement that we negotiate with our ambulance paramedics to improve service in every part of British Columbia.
Member for Kelowna Mission, supplemental.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, while we're hearing about these amazing things from the minister, someone is actually calling 911 and believing that help is going to arrive and arrive in a timely fashion. And it's not arriving. You see, when you're lying on the ground with a broken hip, nobody cares who's in government. They care about the service that they receive. And here's the thing. The people on the ground, the people who are doing their best to help British Columbians in need, have a very different perspective than the ministers. Here's the perspective of a dispatcher on Vancouver Island, and I quote, "The way this is being run, it's dangerous for the public. It's dangerous for those of us who are working. On any given day, we have calls holding for hours, and we just can't get there." End quote. Here's a paramedic who knows the delays aren't a blip and have life and death consequences. And I quote, "People are dying. That's the long and short of it. That people are dying, and we're just not sure who has to die for it to change." End quote. So again, to the Premier, will he take responsibility and fix this crisis with the ambulance system?
Minister of Health.
Well, Speaker, that is precisely what we're doing, and it's precisely because it's so important to people that we added resources during COVID-19 for rural and remote communities in particular. Air ambulance resources, helicopter resources, resources on the ground to improve wait times. It's why since 2017, for the most serious of calls, wait times have come down in a very challenging time. But I appreciate every day the work of our ambulance paramedics. I celebrate it, I recognize it, I admire it, and I support it by providing the resources necessary. The member will know that in one fiscal year, the previous government provided a 0.6% actual lift to the ambulance service. And naturally, that left challenges. I am not saying, Honorable Speaker, that everything the previous government did was bad. Minister George Abbott, for example, established the community paramedicine program, a program that I have dramatically increased since I become Minister of Health. Congratulations. But I am saying that providing a 2.5 times rate of increase in resources in the ambulance service demonstrates the Premier's commitment to our ambulance paramedics and is consistent with the commitments we've made. Are there extraordinary challenges? Yes. Do we have an extraordinary team of ambulance paramedics? Yes. And do we need to continue to support them? Absolutely, yes.